In this video, we're going to take a look at the if-else and the if-elif-else statements. The if-else statement is going to enable us to choose between two alternative courses of action. So if I want to use my grade example from the preceding video once again, we initially created the variable grade and set it to 85, and then we had an if statement that used the variable grade to check whether it was less than or equal to, greater than or equal to 60. And again, I just want to reiterate that the colon here is required. And if in fact this was true, we printed the string passed. And in the preceding example, when we executed the if statement, there was no alternative path of execution. So if we want to print failed if the grade is less than 60, we can use the else keyword to enable that. Now you'll notice when I press enter that the cursor assumes, or the interpreter I should say assumes, that I'm going to add more statements to the current suite that I'm defining. So if I want to define the else part of an if-else statement, I need to use the backspace key to move to the left, remove the 4 spaces of indent, and then I use the else keyword followed by a colon. The colon says that the suite is coming next, and notice that it then automatically indents under the else for me, so I can go ahead and print failed in that case. And if I execute this if-else statement, you can see that indeed it still prints passed because grade, of course, is greater than or equal to 60. Now, as I proceed forward through the rest of this particular video, I will sometimes recall existing statements and sometimes use copy and paste to save myself some typing time as well. So let's demonstrate that the else part can actually work. So I'm going to use the up arrow key to get back to my grade equals 85 statement, or gets the value of 85. And let's change this to a value less than 60. And now if I recall 2 statements earlier, I can re-execute the if-else statement to see what happens with the grade value less than 60, and indeed it prints failed, as you would expect. And of course I can change grade again, and let's say we made it 99, and I'll execute it one more time just for demonstration purposes, and we're back to printing passed once again. Now, sometimes when you're executing code like what we've shown you here so far, rather than printing a value in each branch of the if-else statement, what we'd rather do is store something into a variable. So let's go ahead and recall the grade equals statement, and we'll set grade back to 87, and we'll go and recall the if statement as well. But rather than doing prints, let's say we want to create a variable called result that stores the string passed, and similarly, let's say if the condition is false, that the same variable should instead store the string fail. So of course at the moment grade is currently 87, so the true part of this if-else statement is going to execute, which is that the result will be passed. Of course, if the condition is true, the else part will not execute. And so let's go ahead and execute that and just show you that indeed result contains the string passed, so that seems to have worked. But when you're working with a simple if-else statement like this, there's also a shorthand way to represent the same concept that we did up above here in a shorter amount of space. So we could instead write an expression of the following form. So let's say we want to get the string passed if the grade is greater than or equal to 60, sorry for my typing, and otherwise we want to get the string failed. So what we have here is known as a conditional expression. On the left of the if keyword over here is the value of the entire expression if the condition grade greater than or equal to 60 is true, and to the right of the else keyword is the value of the entire expression if the condition is false. So at the moment, of course, grade is 87, therefore we expect result to be assigned passed. So we can execute this statement, and now we can go ahead and display the value of result. And you can see that indeed the value is passed. Now, of course, in interactive mode, if you simply wanted to see how this particular expression worked, you don't have to assign the value to a variable. You could simply take that expression and evaluate it. I just did a little copy and paste there, and in this case it will just immediately show you that the output of that expression is the string passed as well. Now, so far we've focused on having one statement in each of the two suites in our if-else statement. So we have a suite that is only for the if part of the statement, and a suite that's only for the else part of the statement. However, suites can contain many separate statements. So let's go ahead and set the grade value for this demonstration. Let's make it 49. And let's go ahead and recall a version of the if statement that had the prints in it. And for the else part in this case, let's go ahead and add a second print statement that says you must take this course again because you failed in this particular instance. So as of right now, grade is 49, which is less than 60, excuse me. So the else part is going to execute, and when I run that, you can see that both print statements execute in this case. And just to reiterate, remember that the print statement automatically outputs a new line character at the end of executing. So failed followed by a new line moves the cursor down a line, and then you must take this course again. Now, I can't emphasize enough this indentation issue here in Python. So if I go and change the value of grade, let's say we make it 100, and we recall the if statement, the if-else statement, but this time we go ahead and remove, all the indentation in front of the last statement that was intended to be as part of the else body or the else's suite. Now when I execute this, you see that even though we passed, it's still output, you must take this course again. The fact that print is not indented in the else suite means that this print statement is not part of the if-else statement. So indentation plays a crucial role in the Python interpreter and the IPython interpreter deciding how to evaluate your code. So it's really important that you focus on your indentation as you learn Python. Now, so far we've done if-else statements here, but we haven't done multiple different condition testing, or multiple selection as we commonly call it. So let's go ahead and change the value of grade. We'll make it 77. And I'm going to recall my if statement, and we'll delete some of the code here for the moment just to get us going. Now, let's say that if the, you know what? I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to copy and paste the code to make this a little bit easier, and then I can simply discuss it. So we'll go ahead and paste in an if, elif, else statement. So this is in effect a nested if-else statement that is saying if the grade is greater than or equal to 90, print the letter A, so the grade is an A, and otherwise skip over all the rest of these lines and go to the next statement in sequence. Now, of course, grade currently is not greater than or equal to 90. So what will happen is this condition is false, this suite will be ignored, and we'll move down to the next elif statement and check its condition to see if 77 is greater than or equal to 80. Elif is a keyword in Python like if and else. So anytime you have a keyword, almost all of them are all lowercase letters with the exception of true and false. But unlike some other programming languages, you don't say else space if, you don't say else if. It is shorthanded as elif for else if. In this case. So here the condition is still false, therefore we will not execute the print with the letter B. And then we get to the next elif, and we see that the grade 77, which we just defined up above, is in fact greater than or equal to 70, so this suite will execute, and the remainder of the if elif else statement will be skipped. So let's just demonstrate that, and you can see that indeed the letter C gets displayed in this case. So this is a way that you can test for many separate conditions in a relatively compact format. Each individual elif must be followed by a colon after its condition, and the else at the end of the entire statement is only required if you need a kind of catch-all case where if none of the other items is true, you want one case that will always execute for the instance in which all of the conditions were false. So for us, if we're checking for letter grades, anything that's an A, B, C, or D should display the corresponding letter, and all other grades less than 60 should be considered F, and therefore we have an else clause to handle that catch-all case.